The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and good evening to everyone on the webinar. I am Cynthia Johnson, Vice President of Phi Gamma Chapter, and we have a beautiful presentation for you today. Very, very excited to have Bonnie and Mark Barnes. They're co-founders of the DAISY Foundation. DAISY is an acronym for Diseases Attacking the Immune System. This foundation was formed in November 1999 by Bonnie and Mark Barnes for Patrick Barnes, their son, who died at age 33, complications of idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura. The primary mission of the DAISY Foundation is to honor the superhuman work nurses do in direct care of patients and families every single day. They are given one DAISY awardee is chosen. They also fund nursing research, the J. Patrick Barnes Grant for Nursing Research and Evidence-Based Practice Projects. They also celebrate extraordinary compassion and skill by nursing students by giving the DAISY in Training Award. And last but not least, they honor nursing faculty. I know every year we choose nursing faculty at Cal State Dominguez Hills for this DAISY Faculty Award. So we are more than happy to have Bonnie and Mark here giving us a presentation entitled The Power of Gratitude and the Impact of Meaningful Recognition. Good to have you, Bonnie and Mark. You may begin.
Thank you, Cynthia, and I so appreciate your providing such a wonderful outline of what the DAISY Foundation is all about, and our job here is to put some meat on that outline. So what we would like to do is to give you some background on why we created the DAISY Foundation and why we are so passionate about the work that nurses do every day. For those of you who are not familiar with how the DAISY Award or our other programs for faculty and students work, we're going to just walk through a little bit of the mechanics of how nurses are chosen and the things that they receive and exactly how this recognition works. And then finally, we want to share with you the research that is now underpinning why the DAISY Award is so successful and has become so broad in its reach. We have some wonderful proprietary research that's been done about the DAISY Award, and we'll share the findings with you. And then let's talk together for a bit about the future and what we can do together. Well, as Cynthia said, in November of 1999, Mark's son, my stepson, died of complications of the autoimmune disease ITP. And thank you, Cynthia, for explaining or saying the words out, because they're always hard for me. But these are some pictures of Pat and his wonderful wife, Tina, and that baby girl, Riley, that you see Tina holding is now 15 years old and a strapping, beautiful, beautiful girl, but how sad that she's grown up without her wonderful dad. Well, we had an incredible experience with nurses, and I'm actually going to just go back to the pictures of Pat and talk to you a little bit about what went on. Patrick woke up one morning with some blood blisters in his mouth. He was 33 years old, and as you can see, just full of life. He went to the doctor and found that he had no platelets, and so he was admitted to the hospital with this diagnosis of ITP. And Mark and I flew to Texas, where they were living at the time, to be with them because, well, we thought that they would we'd be there for just a few days and we'd get to spend a little more time with our brand new granddaughter. Well, little did we realize that Patrick was going to become increasingly sick, and from Texas, he and I flew on an ambulance plane to Seattle in hopes of him having a bone marrow transplant that he never got to have. 8 weeks from the time he went into the hospital, Patrick passed away. Well, I know all of you nurses have been around families like ours who go through this incredible, intense time. I mean, 8 weeks of tremendous lows and even some highs, and hoping that he was going to recover. And then suddenly it's all over, and now what do you do? Well, in our case, we started thinking very quickly after he died about what in the world could we do to fill that gaping hole in our hearts, and how could we help to keep Patrick's wonderful spirit alive? And as we talked and brainstormed about this, we kept coming back to one thing that was positive during those 8 weeks, and that was the extraordinary care we experienced from Patrick's nurses. And I would like to just spend a minute talking about why we think the profession of nursing is indeed extraordinary. We were very impressed by the clinical skill that we saw brought to Pat by all of the people who took care of him. But you know, we actually expected he would get great clinical skill. He was in 2 very good hospitals, and we were on the plane with a wonderful nurse, and you know, we expected that. That's why he was in the hospital. What we didn't expect was the way that care was developed, not just what was done, but how it was done for Patrick. The nurses' kindness, their thoughtfulness, not only of Patrick, but of all of us and his family, frankly, just blew us away. They treated Pat as a whole person, and even when he was totally sedated and we did not know what he could experience or hear or sense, the nurses treated him with respect and dignity and kindness and love and sensitivity that just, well, it took our hearts. In addition to the way they treated Pat, what also impressed us was how the nurses never made us feel that they were rushed. They always made us feel that we were the only patient's family, and Pat was the only patient that they had to worry about, and we knew that wasn't the case, but that's how it felt. The nurses acted as our interpreters. Of course, there's so much that goes on in medical language and jargon that we didn't understand. This was such a new and intimidating experience for us. The nurses were incredibly capable of helping us understand and weed our way through the complexity of his condition. They included us. There were many times when they had us feel that we were really on the team, helping to take care of him, and that was incredibly helpful to us. Of course, they educated us, they engaged us, and on top of it all, his nurses were so patient and tender and gentle with all of us, despite the tremendous pressure of what they were dealing with and what we were dealing with. There was, again, a kindness and sensitivity that made a world of difference. And all of this engendered this great sense of confidence and trust in not only the nurses but the entire team that we were exposed to in the hospitals that took care of Patrick. And I will tell you that one of the most compelling things that I learned in that whole 8-week experience was how critically important nurses' hugs were to me at the time. It's as though the nurses knew exactly when Mark and I were at our lowest and when we needed to be held. Those hugs, please don't ever hold them back. They make all the difference to a patient family. So what happened was that what we were perceiving as Pat's nurses really became our nurses, and the relationships that were fostered during those 8 weeks are relationships we will never, ever forget. And so we created the DAISY Foundation to pay tribute to nurses. And as Cynthia said, DAISY is an acronym for Diseases Attacking the Immune System, and that's why you'll always see DAISY capitalized. It's to reflect our acronym because it's all grounded in our experience with what Patrick went through. And it is our way of expressing our profound gratitude for what we experienced throughout those 8 weeks. There are several programs now under the DAISY Foundation umbrella, and I'm going to focus principally on the DAISY Award, but I also want to share with you other programs that we have to recognize others that make nurses nurses. And we have a DAISY Team Award for those organizations we partner with to recognize individual nurses. We also recognize teams, nurse-led teams, who do extraordinary things in the care of patients together. We have, as Cynthia alluded to, a program for nursing students we call the DAISY and Training Award, and our DAISY Faculty Award for, obviously, nursing faculty. And those two programs on the right, the academic programs, are modeled very much after the DAISY Award. So you'll, as I talk about the mechanics of the DAISY Award, you'll see the similarities of what can go on in the academic setting as well. And in addition, very near and dear to our hearts are the J. Patrick Barnes grants for nursing research and evidence-based practice projects. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the presentation. Well, never in our wildest dreams did we imagine that today we would be talking to you about the 1,875 healthcare facilities that are committed to honoring their nurses with the Daisy Award, not only in all 50 states, but in 14 other countries as well, as you can see listed on the right side. And this was not part of our original vision of saying thank you to nurses. We had no idea that the Daisy Award would fulfill a strategic need in healthcare that we just never imagined. To date, over 50,000 nurses have been honored, and even more compelling to us is the fact that over 500,000 nominations have been written by patients and families and colleagues. And we think often about the people who are writing those nominations because just like we were, these people are in the height of emotion. They may be celebrating something very positive like a successful treatment or the birth of a baby, or they may be in the depths of despair over something tragic. But through it all, through all that emotion, what's really important to them is stopping and taking the time to write a nomination about the nurse, their nurse's impact. So it's clear that we're not the only people who needed to say thank you to nurses. One of the reasons that we attribute the tremendous growth that the Daisy Award has had around the world now is the support of all these organizations who have really taught us about the strategic value of this work. And we are extremely proud of the fact that Sigma Theta Tau International is one of our supportive associations, and we are doing more and more to create a partnership with Sigma that is really compelling and meaningful for nurses. So just wanted you to be aware of the support we've been enjoying from the rest of the profession. Well, the night that Pat's wife Tina and Mark and I sat down and started talking about what we could do in Patrick's memory, and we created this concept for the Daisy Award, we had three fundamental principles. And while it's 15 years ago now, these principles are still very much in place today. Number one, we believe very strongly in ongoing nurse recognition. Nurses are doing incredible things throughout the year, and Nurses Week is wonderful, but it's only 1 week a year, so we feel we're here for the other 51 weeks. Secondly, we wanted a program that would be fairly simple to implement, somewhat turnkey, because we really wanted to provide most of the materials to the people we partner with. Our thinking being you all have enough to do taking care of patients or training people to take care of patients or studying to be a nurse, so we wanted to do most of the work. But at the same time, while this program is meant to be quite turnkey, it's also designed to be very flexible to fit each organization's needs and culture. And the criteria, in fact, are set by each partner, each participating organization, under the banner of compassionate care, because that's what we felt was most compelling about the experience we had for Pat. And again, these principles apply not only to our Daisy Award Direct Care program, but also to programs for nursing faculty and students. Well, briefly, how the Daisy Award and our other programs work is this. Nurses are nominated with stories of extraordinary care and compassion. In the case of our Student Daisy in Training Award, it's for nursing students who are performing patient care at the bedside or the chair side, and who are doing wonderful things for patients and families. In the case of faculty, it's extraordinary care of their students and their inspiration that they provide. And of course, in the case of the Daisy Award, nurses are nominated for care and compassion of patients and families. And then the honorees are chosen by a committee of their peers. There's always a committee, whether it's a professional practice council or an academic committee or whatever. They blind the nomination, so it's done fairly and transparently, and a nurse is chosen each month, each quarter, depending on the size of the staff or the faculty or the student body, to provide ongoing recognition. In our hospital partners and ambulatory care settings, these presentations happen in the unit, and they are usually a surprise, so they are a whole lot of fun. You can see on the upper left a wonderful picture of a nurse being surprised. The chief nursing officer comes and to each of the presentations, reads the nomination, the award in a very beautiful way, and these, I will tell you, are extremely emotional because the story of what this nurse or faculty or student have done to receive this recognition are read aloud, so they're very meaningful. Each nurse receives a Daisy Award certificate as their award, and this is what the one looks like for the Daisy Award for Extraordinary Nurses. There are similar ones for the academic programs. And we present that certificate in a beautiful portfolio, so it makes a very nice presentation, very professional presentation. Well, one of the things that Mark and I noticed when we spent those 8 weeks in the hospital with Patrick was what I always refer to as this thing nurses have for pins. So, of course, each of our honorees, whether it's for the DAISY Award or either of our academic programs, receives a pin as well that they can wear on their ID badge. This is a very special gift that's given to each of our honorees. We call it a healer's touch, and these are hand-carved for us by artists of the Shona tribe in Zimbabwe. So each one is a little bit different. Each one is hand-signed. They're made out of serpentine stone, and on our website we have a video that was created. This is a screenshot on the right, video that was created by two of the artists who show you how they take this great big piece of gray rock and turn it into this beautiful symbol of the relationship that nurses and patients have with each other, or faculty and students have with each other. And these are very special and coveted gifts, and we're so proud of the fact that we currently employ 19 artists in Zimbabwe who are carving these for us full-time. And at a time of 85 or 90% unemployment in Zimbabwe, these artists are able to support hundreds of people and their families. And we see this as just another tribute to great nursing care going on here, as you nurses are reaching around the world and putting food on the table and a roof over the heads of these wonderful Shona families in Zimbabwe. We provide a banner that hangs in the unit of our honorees, and it's really wonderful to see all of the great things and creativity that our partners and nurses have brought to this banner. They decorate it, they have the nurses sign it, they do all kinds of fun things, but it's a great and very public celebration, and it rotates around the hospital or the urgent care center or the school, wherever it is. So it's a really nice statement of there's great nursing going on here. And as I mentioned, those DAISY Award presentations are very moving, so we always provide Kleenex as a gift from our friends at Halyard Health, or it used to be called Kimberly-Clark, but there's Kleenex provided at every ceremony. And Chamberlain College of Nursing is actually offering a reduced tuition to each of our honorees, which is really wonderful because we are also committed to the continuing education for our DAISY honorees. Today is National Certification Day, March 19th, and our big news today that's just been released is that all DAISY honorees in 2015 are going to receive a deep discount from the American Nurses Credentialing Center for certification. So we're very excited about that. We're working out the mechanics now, but the announcement came out in celebration of Certification Day today. Now, we feel strongly that the stories of these wonderful nurses and faculty and nursing students need to be shared internationally. So on our website, daisyfoundation.org, every nurse, faculty member, or student who is registered with us receives their own page. And as you can see, there's stories of the nurse, why this nurse has been chosen, are displayed, as is a picture of the nurse at the celebration. And then we share these wonderful stories with other media, as well as our Facebook page and Twitter now, which we're just getting involved with. And the great thing is that now we have this massive archive of extraordinary stories of nursing that are on our website, and we're approached by authors and media and filmmakers, all kinds of people who are looking for the best of nursing, and we've got the stories and we can put our hands on them very quickly no matter what they're looking for. So this is international recognition for our DAISY honorees. We believe strongly that having someone take the time to write a thoughtful nomination about a nurse is really worthy of acknowledgement. So coming back to that thing you all have about pins, we have a special nominee pin that goes to every one of those DAISY nominees. That's how we know that more than 500,000 nurses have been nominated, because that's how many pins we have sent out to our partners. We also have nurses who have been nominated multiple times, and so we've got a multi-nominee pin for them. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over briefly to my husband Mark, because this is his favorite part, is to talk about Cinnabons and why we bring them to every DAISY celebration.
You want to change places?
Sure.
I feel very honored today because Bonnie has given me about 5 minutes to do my part of the speech. So I'm going to do it somewhat rapidly. But I also want to say I think Bonnie did an outstanding job of presenting the DAISY Award. But Cinnabons, to me, are the real reason that it's been as popular as it is around the world. And I mention that because there are dark forces afoot on the land now that don't think that Cinnabons belong in the medical profession. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons as to why they do, so that you can strike down these evil forces if they should ever approach you. When Pat was in the hospital, he had totally and completely lost his appetite. He wasn't eating anything. And as I like to say, we had tried everything that we could think of. We tried artichokes, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, everything that we could think of that was healthy.
They're going to think you're serious.
They are? Oh, no, they aren't. Anyway, the part of it, we did try almost anything that we thought would appeal to him, and nothing did until one morning I brought in a Cinnabon, and he asked for a bite, and he ate the whole thing. And that night he said, please bring me one in the morning and bring enough for all of my nurses. So we did that, and that's why I know that Cinnabons belong in the nursing profession, because they were exceedingly well received, to the point of that afternoon Pat actually got moved into the VIP suite at the hospital. I know it was totally coincidental, but you know, it never hurts to know the right thing. But anyway, it was his gift to his nurses, and we want it to be his gift to the nurses today. So that's the first and most important reason to start with. The second reason is that I know every one of you acknowledges that nursing is a team sport. And so this is an opportunity for everyone in the unit to have a feel-good moment. Even though only one nurse is being honored, it's their opportunity to all get together and celebrate the joy of nursing. And the third reason, however, is the most important reason. And that is, oops, what happened?
Go ahead.
Okay. Is the most important reason. And I want to tell you a little story first about that. Bonnie and I used to get very almost upset with nurses, to the point of they would do these incredible acts of compassion and kindness and turn around and say, I didn't do anything special. And we would say, how can a nurse say this? How can they say they didn't do anything special when they had such an impact on a person's life? Well, about 3 years ago during Nurses Week, I think it was 3 years ago, we had an opportunity to make a presentation at Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. And I talked to the admiral who was the commander of the base before the presentation, and I asked him if he knew why nurses say this, why they say, I didn't do anything special. And he said, of course that's what they say. They wouldn't say anything else. That's because nurses are heroes, and that's what heroes say. He said, our Medal of Honor winners and our nurses always say, I didn't do anything special. And I thought that, and I know Bonnie agreed with me, was such an impactful statement. Here is a man who spent his whole life in the military, and he said, nurses and Medal of Honor winners are America's heroes. And the kind of the funny thing about it, and I'm not making this up, but there are witnesses, when we gave the presentation afterwards, the soldier who was in a wheelchair read the nomination of his nurse, and he looked at her when he was done, and he said, you're my hero. And she, of course, said, I didn't do anything special. So that's the third and most important reason, that whenever you have a Cinnabon, and whenever you think about one, whenever you smell one, just remind yourself you are America's heroes. You make the world a little bit different and a little bit better every single day that you're doing something for your patient. So I want to thank all of you nurses for what you do. I'm going to turn it back over to Bonnie, and if there's enough time at the end of it, I would like to just read excerpts from 2 or 3 letters that we have received to show you what we mean and about nurses not doing anything special, just changing the world for somebody. So, Bonnie, you want to do this again? And thank you for the great amount of time you gave me. I appreciate that.
Okay, well, we chase chairs one more time. This is really a summary of what Mark was saying, that you may think you do what you do every day is routine, but your patients and their families surely do not. So we like the fact that that wonderful Cinnabon aroma can be a sensory trigger to help nurses stop for a minute and think about the impact they have every day and to remember how special they are because they're nurses. Well, I mentioned before that we have now started the DAISY Team Award, and this is for all of our organizations who have the DAISY Award program. We recognize the fact that there are teams of nurses, and sometimes they're not only nurses on the team who are doing extraordinary work. So as long as it's nurse-led, because DAISY is all about nurses, but as long as it's nurse-led, we are very proud to celebrate the team with the DAISY Team Award. We also have, as we've now been describing, our recognition in schools of nursing, and this is really new to us. So currently there are 110 schools of nursing that are honoring nursing students with the DAISY in Training Award and the DAISY Faculty Award for faculty. Just to give you a little insight into how DAISY in Training was born, we received about a year and a half ago, out of the blue, a full-blown PowerPoint presentation, totally thought out, including the name DAISY in Training Award, from a group of nursing students at the University of Iowa. And they had a very articulate presentation to us as to why this recognition needed to be created by DAISY. And it was to help remind nursing students that nursing is not all about the tasks and technology. They needed to continue to focus on the relationships that they were creating with patients and families, and they wanted DAISY to be there as a reminder. And we were just so proud to pilot this program at the University of Iowa and another school of nursing, and now to be rolling it out across the country as a way for nursing students to stay focused on not only the science they're learning, but the art, which is very often the reason that they became nurses to start with. And the DAISY Faculty Award program, which was brought to us by one of our board members who was a dean of nursing, now retired, and she reminded us that, you know, someone had to teach those nurses who took care of Patrick. Well, that was a great insight, and as we talked about it, it became very important to us to celebrate the inspiration that nursing faculty provide, that is indeed creating outstanding nursing students and long-term outstanding and extraordinary compassionate nurses. So those are our two academic programs, and we look forward to continuing to roll them out into many, many more schools in the future. I mentioned that we have a grant program for nurses doing research and evidence-based practice projects, and as you can see, we fund research up to $5,000 per study and evidence-based practice up to $2,000, and our primary focus is on treatment of patients and families of those who have cancer and or autoimmune diseases. Patrick actually had Hodgkin's disease, so we include that in our overall parameters. And this program is run by a wonderful panel of nurse scientists who determine which studies to fund based on the science that's being presented. I often say I would fund everything because I've got such a soft heart when it comes to nurses, but our panel is very discerning and makes sure that we have studies that can be not only successfully implemented, but can have findings that can be disseminated worldwide. And just so you know, the letters of intent for our next funding cycle are due September 4th, and you can find information about that on our website. Well, some years ago, when we had about 1,000 hospitals in our program, we started wondering about what was going on with the DAISY Award that we needed to really understand. I wanted to put some evidence underneath the success and impact of the DAISY Award. And so we were very fortunate to meet Dr. Cindy Lefton, who is an organizational consultant as well as a nurse, and she's currently the head of the patient experience in the emergency department at Barnes-Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. So she comes with some pretty terrific credentials. And just so you can see, and we'll have a longer list of references at the end of the slideshow, that this study that she did has now been published 3 times, and in fact I'll tell you a little bit later about the study she's working on for us next. But what we were really looking for is what is the impact of meaningful recognition like the DAISY Award. Well, where Dr. Lefton began, of course, was in looking at where the concept of meaningful recognition was first discussed in the profession, not just by our family. And it was the American Association of Critical Care Nurses who in 2005 developed the standards for the healthy work environment, and how wonderful that of the 6, meaningful recognition was included. And we were very excited when we learned about that and could see that the nursing profession was seeing the value of meaningful recognition. Dr. Lefton did a literature review on meaningful recognition, and I will tell you that she presents this slide way better than I can do justice to it, but there are many, many offsets or outcomes of recognition in nursing that she picked up not only in the nursing literature but also in psychology literature. And it's everything from enhancing self-esteem to nurse retention and perceived organizational support. My organization really believes in me. Commitment to stay at an organization when a nurse is feeling recognized. Concept of teamwork or work cohesion. Certainly job satisfaction, and of course the overall healthy work environment. So the literature review that Dr. Lefton prepared is on our website and available for anyone to read, and we're happy to share the link, or you can simply find it on the site. So at the beginning of the study, she had laid the groundwork for the benefits of meaningful recognition as it was seen in the literature. But one of the questions that really interested us as a component of this study was to understand, when we talk about extraordinary nurses, what exactly do patients and families and colleagues mean? And so Dr. Lefton and her team analyzed 2,295 DAISY Award nominations. It was quite an exercise because they did it not only manually to develop the themes of that threaded through these almost 2,300 nominations, but they also put these nominations through a linguistic software package to understand what the overall thrust of extraordinary nurses means. And Dr. Lefton refers to this as the physiology of extraordinary nurses. And if you read through these 22 themes that emerged, you'll see that none of them is talking about a clinical aspect of one's work. They're not talking about, gee, you know, a great and extraordinary nurse is one who can put an idea in really well. It's all about how the care is delivered. And of course, this doesn't surprise us because this is what we experienced. So the way we like to talk about this that came out of the research is that nurses are able to identify a need at a given moment that a patient or a family member has. And they combine that need with their arsenal of nursing behaviors, the way that they deliver on that need. And those are the components of extraordinary care. And interestingly, as we look through those nominations, it's clear that extraordinary is in the intangibles. The fact that a parent can talk about that this nurse is very caring and I felt safe in his care is not something you can put your hands on. Like I said, it's not about, gee, they can, you know, put in a tube right or do a clinical practice right. It's really about how that work is done and how it makes you feel when it's done. And of course, through it all, there is that wonderful thing that I refer to as the nursing mantra: I didn't do anything special, I was just doing my job, and that came through loud and clear in the study as well. And that's why Dr. Lefton created this construct of extraordinary is ordinary, and to the nurses, the work that they do is perceived as ordinary, but that same work to patients and families is seen as extraordinary. Part of her study was a qualitative study where she was interviewing chief nurse executives who have the DAISY Award in their organization and interviewed DAISY honorees as well. And it was very interesting to see how the themes of those interviews lined up side by side. For example, to the CNOs, there was a point about how the DAISY Award nourishes teamwork. And the honorees talked to her about how the DAISY Award builds team spirit. When the CNOs may have talked about how they see the role modeling that goes on when those DAISY Award stories are read aloud, they inspire and motivate more extraordinary nursing. And yet the honorees talked about it as how motivating it was to become self-aware of the impact they were having. They talked about the culture of valuing nursing in an organization. That's the kind of CNO leadership approach to it. And yet the honorees say, having the Daisy Award in my organization reaffirmed our commitment to the Ministry of Nursing. And of course, one of our favorite things, the CNOs talk about how the Daisy Award promotes pride in nursing, and, well, the honorees talk about it as shock and awe. And here are some pictures to show you what that shock and awe and pride looks like when you experience a Daisy Award celebration. Because their response is, who, me? They just don't believe it's they are the ones who are being celebrated because they didn't do anything special. They were just doing their jobs. And we see through the research as well as through our anecdotal experiences that these nurses are not only proud, but they see themselves in a whole new way as a Daisy nurse. And they are wearing their nominee pins, and in some cases multiple Daisy Award pins, with tremendous pride, and they hold themselves to a different standard as a result. Well, what do these Daisy stories and nominations mean? I think these are the key findings of this study. They reveal all the right that's going on in healthcare organizations. Clearly, healthcare professionals are trained to look at everything that's going wrong. What's wrong with this patient? What's wrong with this process, with this system? As I said to a chief operating officer recently, heck, what's wrong with the parking? And that was not something he really wanted to talk about. But the point is that healthcare professionals are looking at what's wrong. The Daisy Award, through these wonderful nominations, reveals all the good and all the right that's going on in organizations. And what happens when you focus on all the right is profound. These stories describe how nurses live the mission of their organizations, the highest level of clinical and psychosocial care, and how it impacts patients and families. And having a chance to be nominated by a patient or family member is profound because we hear things like, I didn't get picked by the committee, I got picked by my patient. That nominee pin is worn with tremendous pride. It means the world to our nominees. And all of this is a way of bringing the patient experience to life. The Daisy Award is a means of demonstrating the relationship between a nurse and a patient that is, when that patient is at its most vulnerable, is really, really profound. Just a couple of quotes that we wanted to share with you that demonstrate, I think, how patients and families talk about nurses and the feeling that is engendered when a nurse is doing extraordinary work. I slept better at night knowing she was taking care of my girls. And if I had to pin it down, what it is that sets apart from being a good nurse to that of an excellent nurse, it's the fact that she combines the technical part with healing. So extraordinary is ordinary to nurses, but your ordinary of nurses is truly extraordinary to the rest of us patients and families. And to this point, just very recently, we wrote a white paper. This is the first white paper we at the Daisy Foundation have produced, and we did this in concert with Mary Kalaroutis, who's one of the creators of relationship-based care, and Cindy Sweeney, who is now our executive director at the Daisy Foundation. And our concept was to help nurses see how extraordinary their work is in what they see as ordinary. And Mary Kalaroutis has created something called a framework called See Me as a Person. And we used it as a way of dissecting extraordinary stories and then being able to identify what it is that makes such a difference to patients and families, as nurses do indeed see their patients as people. So I hope you'll take a moment to read it. It's located in our website as well, daisyfoundation.org. So the future. Mark has just handed me a note with a great reminder. When I talked about the research, I completely forgot to mention. I am so sorry. And before we get to the future, I do want to say that one of our requirements in our research program is when we're giving funding to nurses who are doing research and evidence-based practice projects, we require them to file those studies with the Virginia Henderson Library at Sigma Theta Tau International. And we feel very proud of the fact that we are helping to fuel the tremendous content of nursing knowledge that is in Sigma Theta Tau's electronic library. Thank you, Mark.
Good. That's why you keep me around.
Absolutely. Okay, the future. Well, Next month at AONE's annual meeting, the American Organization of Nurse Executives, we're going to announce another recognition program we're calling the Daisy Nurse Leader Award. And this is going to be introduced because we have become keenly aware of the fact that in most of the organizations we partner with, nurse leaders like managers, directors, even especially chief nurse executives, are not eligible to receive the award, the Daisy Award for Extraordinary Nurses. They're just excluded by the way that the program is run at those organizations. And yet, a nurse manager's job is just so difficult, and somebody, nurse managers are doing such, playing such an important role in creating the compassionate environment and an environment where compassion can thrive. So we wanted a way to honor them, and we're calling that the Daisy Nurse Leader Award. So stay tuned for news about that. As I said, it will be announced at AONE. And I mentioned before, Dr. Lefton is working on additional research now for us on the impact of the Daisy Award in partnership with a faculty member at Arizona State University, Dr. Leslie Kelly, who had done a pilot study at one of the hospitals in Phoenix, where she was looking to describe the impact, or rather to describe the nurses who have high levels of compassion satisfaction and low levels of compassion fatigue. And in that study, unbeknownst to us, because they weren't looking for it, the nurses who best fit that description were indeed Daisy nominees. Well, when we learned about this, we asked Dr. Kelly if she would work with us to roll that study out nationally and look for the implications of Daisy's impact on minimizing compassion fatigue and elevating compassion satisfaction. So she and Cindy Lefton are partnering together with Dr. Lefton doing the qualitative piece, Dr. Kelly doing the quantitative piece, and that study is now in the field in, I think, 22 of our sites. So very exciting to see that study underway. And of course, we are so thrilled at the opportunity to work with Sigma Theta Tau International for mutual benefit. There are many things that we are looking forward to doing, certainly finding ways to celebrate your members who are honored with the Daisy Award, the Faculty Award, Daisy in Training Award, and looking to perhaps invite Daisy nurses to apply for membership at Sigma Theta Tau if that's something that you all are interested in, a way to expand your membership. But I know there are many, many creative things we can do together, and we are excited at the potential of blowing those out together. So, Mark, I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Well, do we have enough time? I just wanted to read a few of these. Okay. One of the things that we do at the end of most of our presentations is to take excerpts from a few letters that patients have written over the years. And I went back this morning and took some out. They're not anything special. They're kind of almost at random. But I just want to give you the highlights of stuff so that you can understand why we got so upset with I didn't do anything special. So, thank you for going to the grocery store to buy that special flavor of ice cream for my son when he had no appetite but a craving for a special treat. Thank you for washing my hair when I had friends coming to visit me. Thank you for explaining to the parents, the grandparents, and all the other family members the complexity of a child's condition and answering over and over and over again their questions. Thank you for being there with a warm hand and a hug when life support is turned off. Thank you for sending that cancer-stricken patient home with a smile and the courage to fight. Thank you for being the nurse whose judgment the physicians trust and who say proudly, "You make me a better doctor." Thank you for staying past your shift and being there when no one else could, because you know no one should die alone. Thank you for working with transport to get the patient up to the roof so he could see his beloved mountains one more time. And these go on and on. I don't know if you want to hear any more, or all right. Bonnie says I can read a few more, which is very kind of her. Thank you for making sure that Tiger and Bun Bun are in the recovery room when your very young patient comes down from the surgery. Thank you for giving a shave and a haircut to the homeless young man who just died so that his parents could see him as he was rather than what he became. Thank you. This is probably my favorite one. Thank you for checking with the doctor and then buying a bottle of gin and vermouth and making the perfect martini so the married couple of 67 years could have one more daily martini together. Thank you for going through the trash in the basement to find the priceless treasure of the elderly patient that housekeeping had thrown away because they thought it was trash. Thank you for taking the middle-aged man who just wanted to die and get it over with and talking to him about his children, his grandchildren, his wife, and his beloved Chicago Cubbies because you convinced him that this was the year they were going to win. Thank you for knowing there are times when the disease facing the family offers no immediate solution, and all that can be done is living in the midst of a terrible reality, for knowing that at such times cure has no meaning and offers little hope, for knowing what is needed is not a fix, but a present. So I think those are the reasons that we feel so strong about these nurses doing these extraordinary things to make life a little bit better for their patients. And we hear these all the time, 50,000 of them. So thank you for the opportunity to let me personally say thank you to each and every one of you for being nurses. Thank you for what you do every single day. And you were my hero 15 years ago, and you're my hero today. So thank you. And now it's Bon Bon.
Thank you, Mark. Well, that wraps up our presentation, and we are happy to entertain questions from anyone who's on this live. I do want to share with you that at the end of this slideshow there are multiple pages of references to the research and the meaningful recognition literature review as well. Anyone have any questions or suggestions?
Nobody's there.
Muted.
This is Rita Gallagher. I am the nurse leader counselor, and I wanted to tell you that the chapter board will be working on a program of expedited review for membership for DAISY nurses.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. I think we're going to really, that'll be a major announcement to the DAISY community.
Well, we appreciate all you and all the DAISY nurses are doing.
Well, thank you. Any questions, or is there anything else that you would like us to chat about?
Hi, Bonnie. This is Benson Wright. How are you?
Oh, Benson, I'm just fine, thank you. Great to hear your voice.
So, you know from my previous role that one of the things I got to do in my job was actually be the one to give the DAISY Award. So I did that for about a year. And I was sitting here in your presentation, and I think I could almost remember almost every single one that I have given and what the stories were behind it. So even on the side of the people who get to be the ones to you know, surprise the nurses at the beginning of their shift, and, you know, I remember all the stories, and the nurse who was so surprised when we gave her the award after she had shaved her head in solidarity with a pediatric patient with cancer, and she was like, I didn't do anything, and we were like, you shaved your head. One of the, and she actually was going to be a bridesmaid for another nurse on the floor for her wedding, so that nurse's wedding pictures has her as a bridesmaid with very short hair.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's really, truly just, you know, thank you and Mark for, you know, what you have done with DAISY, and I'm really glad that we're partnering with Phi Gamma and with you two. And I wanted the people who are on the call also to know that our chapter sponsored Mark and Bonnie as to be members, honorary members of Sigma Theta Tau, and you will be inducted at the biennium during the international induction there. And so we are really excited that you're going to be honorary members because it's a well-deserved recognition for you two.
Well, thank you so, so much, Benson. I can't tell you how much this means to Mark and me. We are and will always be full-time volunteers to the nursing profession through DAISY, and we're extremely excited to be working so closely with all of you. And as you know, you had a fantastic DAISY Award program when you were the coordinator, and we are so grateful that it brought you into our lives. Any other thoughts?
Oh. Is anybody there?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm Jean. I'm one of the other people that's on the board for Phi Gamma. Well, actually, I'm on the board, but one of the members of Phi Gamma. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing this, because I haven't actually heard this before, but I have kind of seen it from the background. And it's exciting to see what you're doing and how you are honoring people this way, because I've seen it from working in an area where we were honored and where we weren't honored, and the difference that it made without the research showing it. And I'm glad to see that there's the research and that you're supporting that to show how wonderful this really is and meaningful it is.
Well, we feel so strongly it needs to be in every healthcare organization, that every nurse needs to be exposed to this kind of self-examination and self-awareness of how important this work is. You can never lose sight of it, and the work is so hard, and it becomes, you do get caught up in tasks and technology and charting and all the stuff that takes you away from the patient, but we're here to remind everyone that it's what you do that makes such a difference. Thank you so much for your comment, Gina. Any other thoughts?
They're muted.
I think that's probably all that we have. I'm not sure if Cynthia is able to, if she's still on the call, but just on behalf of the Phi Gamma Board of Directors and the Phi Gamma chapter, I would like to thank both of you for this presentation. We are going to share this on our website and open it up to our chapter members so that they're able to view this in a time zone and a time in their local area where it's not the middle of the night. One of the beauties about our chapter is that we have nurses from 21 countries around the world. So this will be online. We will also open up some online discussion around it, and we look forward for our chapter to hear about this and our continued relationship. So thank you so much, Mark and Bonnie.
Thank you, Benson. Have a great night, and thank you to all of you who are listening in.